Hello, my name is Don Mays, and I'm with Macedon LLC. This is an SAP Business One cost roll-up presentation. Our objectives are to show the cost roll-up functionality. SAP Business One tracks only one cost per item, the average cost or the standard cost or FIFO. There's no visibility for manufacturing costs, and there's limited cost roll-up capabilities even for a single cost per item. So this is going to show us an automated way to go and update standard costs and to do the cost roll-up within a manufacturing environment. Within the SAP Business One cost roll-up, we track these costs: purchase costs for raw materials and components. That obviously comes through normal SAP Business One processes. We also have freight as a percentage of raw material costs. We also have duties and taxes as a percentage of material costs. Labor is based on an operational dollars per hour, so we define a operations table that has dollars per hour and the run times in the router for each operation within the bill of materials. Overhead is either based on a percentage of the labor or on a dollars per hour for that operation. And setup is based on the setup time, the setup cost per hour, and the standard production quantity when we normally do one setup. And outside services are tracked via the router, defining the outside service cost for that particular operation. The cost roll-up itself is available on the bill of materials screen. In a normal environment, that's where you're going to use it most of the time. You click on the cost roll-up, it rolls up the cost to that level of the bill of materials. It is also available on the quote screens so that you can review what your current costs are for the quote, so that you can look at it and determine whether that is the right price to be selling a product at. Cost roll-up could also be scheduled in off hours. In some environments where you have thousands and thousands of bills of materials and parts, it may take quite some time to roll up all of the parts, so that would be scheduled in an off hours environment. We can also move rolled up costs with the 7 buckets over to a single price in a price list, and then this in turn can be used to go in and revalue the inventory and set new standard costs, as if for instance. During the cost roll-up, weights are also rolled up so that we can go in and view and determine whether or not the weights seem reasonable for the finished good. This is the bill of materials that we're going to be looking at in this presentation. We start off at the bottom with a raw material, and it takes 0.35 pounds, and it's a code 36 operation, and it becomes a new part with a -36. It gets sent to the outside service company to get serviced, becomes a -40 part. It has another operation performed, -43, another operation to -58, another operation -60, and it becomes the final part. And the CB part to the left is a packaging cost. So this is the bill of materials that we'll be looking at, and we'll be rolling the costs up for that and viewing it in more detail. Okay, let's review that bill of materials cost roll-up function. Go into the bill of materials, we'll key in the finished good part, we'll find it, and we'll click on cost roll-up. We're going to use price list 0, which means that we are going to use the prices from the raw materials as in inventory. Click OK, and we have a cost roll-up that is completed. At this point, we can look at the costs. We can see that raw material for the 131-14 is $11.49, and as we look at the material and we roll it up, we can see that it goes to $4.02, which is 0.35 times this number. We can also see the labor that is created at each step, along with the overhead and along with the setup, and one of the steps has got service. And we can see the cumulative rolled up numbers as we go along. Material, freight, duty, other, labor, overhead, setup, and service. And finally, we can look at the grand totals, and we can see that this costs $9.32. We could take the same approach looking at quotes. Let's pull up a quote with the 491610 part, and we do a cost review in here. And again, we're able to see the costs of labor, overhead, outside service, material, etc. in here. So this is a very quick way of being able to find the cost of a quote. Now let's review moving the costs to the inventory master file. First of all, we're going to move the rolled up cost to a price list. The price list we're going to move it to is called rolled up costs. We're going to clear the current information in there, and we'll click the update button. That process has now moved the prices to the inventory price list, which we can review by going into the price list, double clicking on the price list rolled up costs, and choosing it, and there's our $9.32, as well as the cost for the other parts along the way as well. Now, the next step after this is to go into the revaluation list, choose the rolled up cost, click the process, and it brings up the information. So now we're going to go in and choose all of the parts that are of interest to us, and we will click revaluation. Click revalue. Processing begins. Upon completion of this, we can go into the journals, and we see for today a material revaluation transaction was created. We can also see this same transaction in the inventory under inventory transactions, inventory revaluation, and we will see the parts that we've updated the cost. In summary, we can see that the cost roll-up is a good check against bill of materials validity, because we can roll up the costs and quickly determine whether the number is reasonable. Cost accountants can use the rolled up cost to adjust standard costs, as you saw, very quickly. Inventory is also a valuation that can be provided that can show each one of the costs, the on hand, and we can value the labor, the material, all of those components separately, as opposed to having one lump sum number. And we can see that the cost roll-ups are very accurate and much more timely to produce. Thank you for viewing our cost roll-up for SAP Business One. For more information, contact Macedon at www.macedon.com.